it is becoming increasingly more apparent that it is only a matter of time before Bitcoin goes on a major bull run. This is the first cycle where we have ever seen something like this. In their latest report, Bloomberg reveals that the company expects Bitcoin to retest the record highs from 2017 and may even go as high as $28,000. Don't take this for granted, guys. The $28,000 number, in my opinion, is arbitrary. The bigger picture is that we have never in all 11 years of Bitcoin's history, we have never seen so much awareness, acceptance, and understanding around Bitcoin, especially from media and notable institutions and people with big platforms in general, like this. So specific topics from the Bloomberg Report are as follows. Something needs to go really wrong for Bitcoin not to appreciate. Bitcoin has the upper hand versus the cryptocurrency market, like gold has the upper hand versus commodities. Bitcoin has been maturing. Bitcoin exchanges, and by the way, there are more Bitcoin exchanges today than ever before in Bitcoin's 11-year history, but Bitcoin exchanges have been absorbing a large portion of the available supply. Bitcoin futures may be a driver to sustain a price above $10,000. Number of addresses signal Bitcoin set to sustain a price above $10,000 resistance. I like the write-up that Cointelegraph did on this report. The report suggests that COVID-19 has accelerated Bitcoin's maturation as an asset, showing its strength amid declining equities. In addition, it points to the ever-increasing appetite from institutional investors and Grayscale, or GBTC in particular, which has been consuming about 25% of the new supply. So specifically, the report gets into the fact that there is a difference in supply this cycle as opposed to last cycle. The supply is significantly less this cycle, causing exchanges and a lot of people to buy up larger percentages of the overall supply. So in other words, supply is lower and demand is higher. Now, my takeaway from the report, what I got out of this report, is that Bitcoin has certain properties that give it value, especially in the current state of the world today. So, what are those properties that make it valuable? Well, Bitcoin is digital. Guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but grocery stores, convenience stores, retail stores no longer accept cash. You can't get cash back. You can't pay with cash. The world is trending towards more digital. So, what's the problem with that? Nothing, except all the digital means of payments are highly centralized and highly permissioned. So Bitcoin, on the other hand, is an alternative. It's decentralized, it's liquid, it has a huge network effect. And more importantly, because of this network effect, there is no single point of failure. So it's near impossible to shut down. That's a good hedge. Also, as stated in the report, Bitcoin is extremely scarce with a hard monetary policy. Again, something needed in times like this. So basically, everything that Bitcoin is together makes it valuable. And looking at the current state of the world today makes Bitcoin more valuable. And Bloomberg realizes this for the first time ever this year. Bloomberg realizes this. And more people are realizing this. So just like in 1995, people were writing off the internet simply because they didn't understand it, people who are writing off Bitcoin today simply don't understand it. Now cut to 2005 for the internet. Cut to just 10 years later, everybody pretty much just accepted the internet was here to stay. The same tipping point is going to come with Bitcoin. I think in the next 10 years this will happen. And my opinion is this: buying Bitcoin today is like buying the best parts of New York in the 1800s, and people don't realize this yet. The learning curve is just too strong. But waves of people are starting to realize this. People are starting to realize that the average person shouldn't be forced to be a professional investor just to accumulate wealth. Bitcoin fixes this. Anyways, I gave you some of my opinions in there. I wanted to talk about this report. Extremely bullish in my opinion, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I want to take a look at some recent news now. 3 pieces of news and I will get you on your day. I want to talk about Mark Cuban. I want to talk about Ethereum. And I want to talk about a new George Floyd coin. So a lot to go over. Then we'll take a look at the current price of Bitcoin. Starting here, because this kind of goes along with what we were talking about at the beginning, Mark Cuban says that Bitcoin can be a store of value. He also said some negative stuff. While Mark Cuban thinks that Bitcoin can be a store of value, he doesn't think it's a particularly good one. In brief, Mark Cuban said that Bitcoin can be a store of value, but it's not a useful alternative to the US dollar. In further comments, he added that he doesn't think Bitcoin is a good idea. So we're not even going to read the article. If you wanted, you can see a series of tweets that Mark Cuban had, specifically with Preston Pysh, who's a big Bitcoiner. The overall takeaway, again, for me, is this is a huge net positive for Bitcoin. Again, never in history have we had such notable people like Mark Cuban, such respected people with such clout, with millions and millions of followers and fans, openly talking about Bitcoin's use case, and does it have a use case? And Mark Cuban says it can be a store of value. And, this is it's all part of increasing awareness and, educating people on what Bitcoin is. Again, digital scarcity was only invented 11 years ago. There's a learning curve, and people are getting past it. And again, this is a huge net positive. In other news, if you hold Ethereum, this is definitely something you're going to want to tune into. The Ethereum community is debating raising the block size limit once again. The Ethereum network has become highly congested since the end of April, leading some to entertain a gas limit or block size increase. Data from Etherscan shows that the average gas price rose more than threefold since early May. According to ETH Gas Station, this resulted in an average of 16-cent fees to send a simple ETH transaction, which uses the least gas possible. ERC20 token transfers and smart contracts, on the other hand, can cost many times as much. The fee increase is already having a significant impact on on-chain activity for gaming dApps. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because this is a good illustrator as to the difference. Like, Bitcoin doesn't do this, and I'll tell you why. When you increase the block size limit, yes, it makes transactions go down. Yes, it makes sending transactions faster, but it becomes harder to run a full node. And that might be okay for the next 5 years, but over time, as it becomes harder to set up and run your own full node, the network becomes less decentralized. So is Ethereum going to remain decentralized 20 years from now? I don't know. This makes me question it. Is Bitcoin going to remain decentralized 20 years from now? I have more faith in Bitcoin because Bitcoin chose not to do this. Yes, it causes a little bit of tension points, but they're trying to, keep Bitcoin around decades in the future. Anyways, I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing for this coming cycle, but I'm just talking about long term because that is the goal, right? We want these projects. This is supposed to be a revolution. Can cryptocurrency survive decades? If it is to survive decades, it needs to remain decentralized, permissionless, and censorship resistant. In other news, as protests rage, someone in crypto wants to make money on George Floyd. Some in the crypto community are using the turmoil in the United States to push a George Floyd token in what appears to be an obvious cash grab that feeds on sentiment. The result is the launch of a George Floyd token, or a Floyd. Its website asserts that the memory of George Floyd will live on forever thanks to the token, while its main pitch is that of a secure way of funding empowerment. Surprised they didn't put DeFi in there. Despite the calls for immortalizing Floyd through blockchain, it is not a collectible or a non-fungible token. The Floyd token is a standard ERC20 that the project's vision paper hopes will help protesters and activists accept more than one payment stream if they need assistance. Then it goes on to list several red flags. Yeah, you think? So this was just kind of funny. Obviously, if you're even a little bit intelligent as to the overall cryptocurrency space, this is obviously just a cash grab or possibly a meme coin, like a Doge. Either way, uninvestable, obviously. In my opinion, taking a look at the price of Bitcoin, we are still hovering at $9,700. We are still consolidating close to the highs, which is very interesting. I recently moved these These are just arbitrary. I put these here and these colors in arbitrary places. But my personal buying zones in the future, and it could never hit these zones again. I'm fully aware of that. But despite the fact that Bitcoin is looking so bullish this cycle, we could see a 30% drop at any moment. Keep that in mind. And it's going to scare people off, and people say Bitcoin's dead again. So just be smart about this. Yes, things are looking bullish on a long-term scale, but we could see a 30% drop any moment and then not retest 9,700 for months. It's possible. Keep that in mind. Anyways, guys, that is it from me today. Guys, share this video with as many people as you can. Post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, post it on Reddit, and then you'll get some karma or you'll get some likes. But especially the beginning of this video is so valuable, really to wake people up that Bitcoin is here to stay and smart money is seeing it as a valuable hedge. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. It's turning into a great year. Well, obviously, actually, this is the worst year ever, but turning into a great year, right?